Hi Internet! This video is specifically for all of my new friends who are going to be Disney college interns. But of course anybody who's looking for some great tips on how to pack your life is gonna really benefit from this video. We're going to be mostly focusing on when you're packing to go somewhere for a long time, not for like a 2-week vacation. We're talking months at a time that you're going. So let's get started. Okay, here's the reason I'm making this video. I was an exchange student last year in Belgium, which meant that I had to pack up my whole life into 2 suitcases and a carry-on and a personal item to head myself over to Belgium for an entire year. And while I was there, I switched host families twice, so I had to pack up my life again 2 more times, and then again to come home. So as you can tell, that's a lot of packing. So I've learned some great tips from my own personal experience, and then I'm also going to share with you some other things that I've heard from other people that worked well for them. For the most part, we're going to be focusing on staying in the United States. I'm from Ohio, and I will be driving down to Florida for my internship, but I know that a lot of people will be flying, and that also changes things because most airlines in America allow you 1 suitcase at 50 pounds and a carry-on and a personal item to go with you, and if you want an extra suitcase, you have to pay. Now, first thing right off the bat, if you think you're going to need a second suitcase, pay for it, because it's a lot cheaper to pay for a second suitcase than to pay the fees that they're going to charge you if your suitcase is overweight. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is if you're driving, even though you think, oh, I have this whole car that I can fill up, you still want to go and pack a little bit light because you don't want to overwhelm yourself, 1, and 2, you really are going to get things while you're there, and you don't want to have all this stuff that you don't know what to do with when you get there, only to add to it for when you have to come home. And plus, packing is just a nightmare in general, so making it any easier on yourself is going to be worth your while for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the size of your suitcase. A note about carry-ons. A lot of times the dimensions are bigger than you think. When I went to Belgium, my carry-on was a full-size suitcase, and that helped a lot. So definitely take a look at those regulations. If you're driving down, it doesn't matter because you're in your car. But just make sure that you don't stuff a huge suitcase so full that you can't lift it, because you're going to have to take it through security at some point. If you're flying, obviously if you're driving, you won't have to. Things that you don't need to bring with you. These are big ones that everybody thinks that they have to have. Girls, most of your toiletries, you don't need to bring them with you because you can get them wherever you're going. Now here's a little disclaimer. If you're going to Europe or a different country and you have like a favorite cosmetic, then that I would say you should stock up on and take with you, because either you're not going to be able to find it at all, or if you do find it, it's going to be really expensive. That happened to me. I love Maybelline mascara, and when I got there, I found it, but it was twice the price as it is here. So those are little things that aren't going to add a whole lot of weight to your suitcase, so go ahead and stock up and take them with you. However, we're talking about a Disney internship here, so there probably won't be anything that you won't be able to find down there that you need to take with you. Things like shampoo, toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, all kinds of stuff like that is stuff that you don't have to take in your suitcase to take up space, stuff that you can buy once you get there. If you're flying, be aware that there are a lot of rules about your liquids on carry-ons that you need to be very aware of. If it's in your stored luggage, usually you're okay, it doesn't matter, but you can only have so much liquid in your carry-on. So be very aware of that, because the last thing you want to do is bring your favorite perfume only to have it taken away. So if you're going to bring a liquid like that, make sure that you stow it in the luggage that you're going to put underneath the plane in the storage and not in your carry-on. Before you start packing, make sure you know what you're allowed to have before you start, because the last thing you want to do is have all of your stuff and not enough space for it because you didn't look at your regulations first. So make sure you take a look at that. Also, if you are driving down, make sure that you have enough space for your things, but don't bring too much. It is essential to pack light wherever you go, because the fact is that once you get there, you're not going to want half the stuff that you have. That's something that I ran into. I took a whole bunch of clothing over with me to Belgium that I probably wore twice in the entire year. So just be very rational with yourself about the things that you're taking with you, and if you don't think you're going to wear it, don't bring it. And don't try to convince yourself that you're going to, because you're not going to, I promise. Another thing that we should talk about, again, this is mostly for ladies, are shoes. You don't need as many pairs as you think you do. Literally, just take it down to the bare minimum of what you need. Because again, if you find yourself needing, I don't know, an extra pair of flip-flops, you can find them wherever you are. And it's not necessary to take up the extra weight and the extra space in your luggage for these flip-flops or whatever you think you might need. So take a pair of good walking shoes. Take a pair of nice dress shoes because you will need them for something at some point. Take a pair of boots if you're going to be in a climate that's going to get a little bit colder. You should have a pair of sandals. And, you can let yourself bring a couple extra pairs, but don't bring your whole closet. I have a ridiculous amount of shoes, and I would never even think to bring them all with me anywhere. So just make sure that you're keeping your head on with your shoes, ladies. And guys, most of you probably only own 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. Not judging, I'm just saying that's in my personal experience. That's what guys tell me. But again, be very selective when you're choosing what you're going to take with you as far as shoes because they're big and bulky and they weigh a lot more than you think they do. Okay, so let's talk about the actual packing. You should have a list of everything that you think you're going to need. But before you gather everything, look over the list and cross out things that you really don't. Okay? But make a list because the worst thing is to be where you need to be and realize that you forgot something that you actually really do need, like a medication or something like that. So make sure that you make a list of everything that you need and make sure that you check it off as you go as you pack. Have all of your suitcases out and look at them all so that you can be very conscious of what you're putting into which suitcase so you can organize yourself because that's also very important when you're packing. Organization makes it easier on you and it actually lets you make use of your space better. So what I would suggest is to put all of your shirts in a pile, all your pants in a pile, everything in its own pile, and then go one by one and decide what's going to go in what suitcase. When you're actually packing your suitcases, here are a few tips to make things take up less space. Rolling things rather than folding things is a big one. Roll everything. Like if you have a t-shirt like this, just go ahead and fold it like you would to go ahead and roll it. Turn it over like this and then roll it all the way down. So you have a rolled piece of clothing instead of a folded piece. And this takes up less space in your luggage and it'll allow you to pack more because there's a lot less airspace in here. Speaking of airspace, another amazing option is vacuum sealed bags. If you don't want to invest in vacuum sealed bags, there's a great alternative. Ziploc makes a bag that's about this big and you can throw all of your stuff in there and just zip it until it's about 3/4 of the way zipped and then sit on it. Sit on it and get on every corner until there's no air left and then just zip up the rest of it and it'll be a lot smaller. You can stack those real nicely in your suitcase and then it's another way to stay organized also. And that works for all of your clothes, your pants, your skirts, your dresses, your shirts, your underwear, anything that you can do that for, I would suggest doing that because it definitely helps and it takes up less space. Again, just to remind you, make sure that you're not packing too much into a suitcase so that it's too heavy. But the vacuum sealed bags is a great option to keep all of your stuff more compact.